Hey everybody, I'm Not Great, and welcome to what I suppose is my afterword for the most recent playthrough of Dark Souls 3, The Intelligence Run. Now we're about a decade late for an actual game review, but I thought I would review instead my experience as an intelligence main, and the challenges that came with it. So here we go. Dark Souls, and Souls games in general, are notorious for being a challenging experience. However, after a while, as you acclimate to your character and playstyle, even the most difficult fights can start to feel too easy, even trivial. So, to bring back that feeling of challenge, and the reward that comes with beating that challenge, many players challenge themselves by limiting themselves. For the most hardcore, this can be seen in no leveling, no death, and no hit challenges. But a good doorway to increase difficulty is a simple limiting challenge. For example, if one were to excel as a strength character with heavy weapons and armor, switching to a dexterity build and putting limits on how high you level your strength stats that you cannot rely on great weapons and poise. Those who excel in melee combat may try a spell-heavy build, which limits their effectiveness in close combat. And so, as someone who revels in up-close and dirty fighting, I decided that focusing on intelligence to the detriment of all other damage stats was the right challenge for me, and that I would do it in Dark Souls 3, a far less forgiving game than Elden Ring, but with more variety than Bloodborne in combat options. Here's how it went. Starting out, everything felt the same, especially through the starting area. Sure, we had a spell and a staff. They aren't terribly strong, and you can't level up or upgrade your equipment yet anyways. Things get interesting after Firelink and entering the Undead Settlement, as Sorcery is actually very helpful here in the early game, except for bosses, where it is hit or miss. The Curse-Rotted Greatwood isn't a great sorcery target. You can't target any of its weak spots, and you have to hit the weak spots to defeat it, but all of the enemies leading up to it definitely are. The same with the demon you fight with Sigurd. You have to be careful, but you can slip some spells in every so often to keep softening it up for defeat. And that's how it goes for a while. Mobs are mobs and can be managed from a distance, and bosses are bosses and need more skill than just a little pew-pew to take down. As long as you pick a good weapon to apply the lone crystal gem to early on, and something that doesn't need two-handing or much stamina, you're pretty set for a while. However, there is a period mid-game where sorcery and magic damage don't quite cut it. For me, I feel like this is when you enter Irithyll, or Irithyll, however you want to say it. Whatever NPC says Irithyll, I kind of want to punch them in the face, it just doesn't feel right. Anyways, the mobs, and of course the Pontiff, all have a step up in offense and defense, and are very good at closing distance or lobbing their own projectiles at you, making it a race to complete casting so you can dodge out of the way. That is, until you get the Great Sword of Judgment from Pontiff Sylvan. From that point on, with the exception of some magic-resistant bosses, you can wipe the floor with pretty much anything that comes your way. Which I did. Gleefully. At this point, my inner murder hobo took over, and casting sorceries became secondary to bonking the bonk out of every bonking mother bonker who dared have the potential to be targeted. Moving from that to the Moonlight Greatsword, from Osiris, every other weapon was a secondary consideration. And not to put too fine a point on it, that's how we ended the game, as well as the DLCs. Cast a spell to be a jerk, then bonk to death anything that wanted to fight about it. Or just skip to the bonking. You need the bonk to deal with the magic-resistant enemies, and you need the magic to pump out more damage against others, and things even out pretty well. Until Midir. I've learned Midir negates 50% or so of all magic damage used against it, and this, frankly, blows goats. But if you've been dutiful in your intelligence leveling, you can get a fast pass to melting the Elder Dragon Dark Eater, Pestilent Mist. Pestilent Mist has limited utility because most mobs and bosses, 1, are of a reasonable size, and 2, move. Midir moves, sure, but he is so big he may as well be stationary for this spell, especially if you gather your courage and fight him head on. I guess that's about as good an apology as we'll get from Miyazaki for making Midir such an absolute unit. Still, being a squishy mess, especially in the Ringing City DLC, but for most of the game at large, was quite the challenge. I had to completely rethink my strategies, improve my dodging and timing skills, and look for areas where I could pop out a quick spell or two to make up for my lack of muscle and durability, and it led to a completely different but still thoroughly enjoyable experience. I also developed a new appreciation for summons, who could buy the extra space and time I needed to be a caster and, cast spells and stuff. And I will say, this was a great appetizer for other challenges. Maybe next is casting only, no melee. Maybe I work up to a massive parry challenge. Or try for no leveling or something new. I've been considering a new run in Elden Ring where my only weapon is the Sword of St. Trina, for example. And now I feel more confident that I could potentially pull it off. Okay, that's a lie. I already knew I could do it, but now I feel like I could do it and maybe cast some spells while I was at it. Anyway, that about wraps things up. I very much enjoyed this new challenge, and we'll see what other challenges lay ahead. If you are looking for a challenge, I recommend this as a first step. It's not insurmountable by any means, but good to keep you on your toes and keep you away from what you usually use as go-to weapons and combat styles, and get you out of your comfort zone, and let you experience the game in a way that you haven't been able to before. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy out there. Don't buy Tesla anything, and I do hope you have a good one.